Welcome to this special edition Markets Daily from Consensus 2025's. Our next guest joins us at the desk now, Kevin O'Leary, chairman of O'Leary Ventures and co-host of Shark Tank, also known as Mr. Wonderful. Welcome back to the show.
Great to be here, thank you.
Yeah, great to be here. So we're at Consensus in Toronto. This is the first time we've run Consensus north of the border. Talk to us about what's going on in Canada when it comes to crypto.
Well, I mean, it's kind of interesting that we would have it here because it's a beautiful convention hall, obviously, but Canada is going through a remarkable transition right now. It's been a very tough time for the last 10 years. It's collapse of the Canadian economy, collapse of the Canadian dollar, collapse of Canadian investment, collapse of Canadian GDP. There's never been a time like this, and unfortunately it's because of Justin Trudeau. He was an idiot. I'm just sorry, but that's true. So now we have a new leader, and we have great potential, and I think...
What are your thoughts on Mark Carney?
I think he has... Well, first of all, he's not an idiot, not like Trudeau. So this guy has a proven executional skill. You may not like his policies on green initiatives, and some don't. I'm always willing to give a new leader 100% mandate. Give him a chance. But he's got a tough job because he doesn't have a majority, and so he's got to work with the Conservatives to find a path. After all, Canada is the richest country on earth when measured proven resources per capita. We're the richest country on earth run by morons. Here's a chance where you could get Carney to reverse that course. So he has his chance, but because if you look at the history of minority governments in the parliamentary system, whether it be in Britain or in Canada, it's not good. I mean, if you don't turn the ship around in 12 to 18 months, you're gone.
What are your thoughts on his stance on crypto policy? He hasn't really elaborated on that, and so when we talk about crypto policy in Canada, where do you see that headed under Mark Carney?
I'm very optimistic that he will follow the leadership of the regulator in the U.S., which has happened, really with the OSC, the regulator here, the prime regulator in Ontario. They're watching what the SEC is doing. Paul Atkins just took over the SEC just weeks ago. He's very pro-crypto. He's made that known. So I anticipate a very positive tone in Canada as well. And I think Carney, coming out of financial services, understands the potential of what crypto can be in providing, productivity in all sectors of the Canadian economy. So I would say he'll be pro-crypto. I mean, we don't know yet, but I'm going to cut him a broad swath to let him prove himself because he can do it.
And what do you think of his interactions with Trump? I mean, it seemed that Trump liked him, and then they had a rapport. And what do you make of that?
Well, it's a reverse to what the reason he's prime minister is a remarkable situation. Think about this. Trump and Trudeau had a toxic relationship because during Trump's first term, the first mandate he had, Trudeau kept throwing barbs at him and darts at him all around the world, insulting him in Egypt and India and the UK. And Trump didn't like that. And I guess Trudeau never thought he'd be back. And then when Trump got back, the first thing he did was reverse that same thing, and he started doing the whole Trudeau's a governor, we're going to buy Canada, just having fun. But I also learned that he hates Freeland even more. And so he just hated both of those people. And that's what caused this incredible antagonistic view of Canada, which let Carney go to Canadian people, and he was so brilliant at this. I have to hand it to him. He said, don't look at the track record of my party. Doesn't matter that they impoverished 25% of the Canadian population. Don't worry that we've wiped out the currency. Don't worry that our GDP is zero. That doesn't matter. What matters is this evil guy south of the border named Trump. I will save you. And it worked. It was brilliant. Now the problem is he's got to deliver. He's got to turn Canada around. And you want to support the leader, regardless of who it is.
You've got to be firm on the tariffs.
If he doesn't do it in 12 to 18 months, he'll be gone.
Were you surprised that Carney was able to kind of flip the country very quickly? When it comes to the vote, most of Canada was leaning Conservative.
Well, I think he did a brilliant job in getting people to, because the Liberals were losing by 30% because of their track record. It was the worst government in Canadian history by the numbers. You don't have to get emotional about it. They wiped the Canadian economy out. They just did. And they just had the wrong policies at the wrong time. But it was remarkable to see. That just shows you he's a pretty good, he has good executional skills. And so we want him to do that within the country now. And let's see it happen.
What do you think will be the right approach when approaching tariffs with Trump? Because we see China has had a hard stance. You were saying throw 400% tariffs against China, but now we've seen them roll that back quite a bit, this 90-day pause. And on other cases with Panama, with other countries, if they give in a little, I mean, they're going to be basically slapped by Trump. And so what should the Canadian approach be?
Well, I called for 400% on China as effective embargo. I didn't want any trade with them to get them to the table. They came to the table in Geneva, and they started the narrative now, which I think is great. The way to look at this tariff situation, right now, let's look at the China package for the next 90 days. 10% tariffs of American goods going into China, 30% Chinese goods coming in the U.S., of which it's 10, reciprocal 10, plus a 20% fentanyl penalty, which could go away tomorrow if the Chinese figure out how to stop sending the components of fentanyl to Mexico and the United States. And so that's a 10 and 10. The way to look at it from the financial perspective is most countries on earth have a consumption tax called a VAT tax. You're in Italy, you buy a handbag, you go to the airport, you get your VAT tax back. France, England, Canada, same thing. The U.S. could never sell to Congress a consumption tax, ever. However, if you put a 10% tariff on reciprocal with every other country, you've effectively introduced a consumption tax. That's what Trump is doing. And most economies can function very well between 7 and 14% consumption tax. So if they end up in the middle at 10%, reciprocal tax with every country, including Canada, that's going to work. And I think that's where we're going. And unfortunately, right now, Canada is only 2.5% of the world's GDP, so we're way at the bottom of the list of what Trump cares about, because he's trying to do 60 agreements
We're
at once.
We're a top trading partner for the United States.
No, I know, but I mean, you got to get the EU done, India done, Japan done, and then Canada maybe. In the meantime, he's just parked us with 25% because he hated Trudeau so much in Freeland. And I can't believe she's still in government. I mean, I'm shocked.
She's transport minister now, right?
The best thing to do with her, and I would advocate this as a Canadian taxpayer, is pay her, but don't let her come to work. Let her stay at home and just do whatever she does. And she's horrible. She's the worst manager I've ever seen.
Why do you think he kept her in government?
I have no idea. If she was working for one of my companies, I would have fired her a long time ago. Look at what she did when she was finance minister. She is the most incompetent elected official in Canadian history after Trudeau, who was an idiot. So you've got, I can't say enough, but I'm just telling the truth, I'm being honest. She was absolutely, had no executional skills.
Do you still think Canada should be the 51st state of the United States?
No, I don't think that at all. I think we should have an economic union because we would be the largest economy on earth if we combined, do the same thing the Europeans did. A common currency, a common passport option. We don't give up sovereignty. We form an economic union. We protect the northern border against Russia and China. That's the signal that Trump has given. But he detested. I mean, I was there. I watched those two interact. It was brutal. It was. Ugh.
You're familiar with Trump, correct?
I've known the guy for 17 years. We came up together on television. He was on Celebrity Apprentice, and I did Shark Tank. We started the same month in New York. That was 17 years ago. Look, he is what he is, but I always tell people, look, don't listen to the noise, listen to the signal. Trump is bombastic. He says outrageous things. He tweets out crazy stuff every morning, but he has a signal, and the signal he has is, let's combine the economies. Not buy Canada. No one's going to sell Canada. No Canadians want that. But if you ask a Canadian, would they like to take their Trudeau peso and convert it into American dollars? 11 out of 10 Canadians would do that. No, I mean, the Canadian dollar is wiped out.
Should Canada have a strategic Bitcoin reserve?
I think they should. I think every country is going to use that in the same way that gold was used 100 years ago. I mean, I'm a believer in that, but you need policy. You need you need law for that. We don't have that. We don't even designate Bitcoin as a security or commodity yet. We're a long way from that happening, a long way.
Kevin, we got to let you go, but I want to come back to one thing you said. You said that you think the Canadian regulator will watch the U.S. regulator and what they're doing when it comes to crypto regulation. The last time you and I spoke, we spoke about stablecoin legislation in the United States.
Right.
The last Senate vote failed to pass. I want to get your thoughts on that. What do you think is going to happen? Are you still positive on getting stablecoin legislation by summer
I'm very
recess?
close to that bill, and they're taking another shot at it. There was 9 Democrats that voted against it in the last minute. That was purely political. Most states and the federal government see the merit of a digital payment system based on the U.S. dollar, because most commodities on Earth, price discovery is based on the U.S. dollar, including Canadian commodities, like oil, like gas, like precious metals and precious rare earths. They're all designated and price discovered in U.S. dollars. And so I think that will happen. It will be an important legislative move to signal that we're going to be dealing with crypto. And I believe, and I'm still an optimist, and I've said this multiple times, that crypto will be the 12th sector of the economy within 5 years, because it's so productive to the rest of the sectors, just in digital payments. Just think about what happened when Robinhood bought WonderFi. You can now transfer currency right across the border without using a bank. That's a $1 trillion industry it's ancient. It's 60-year-old technology and really high fees. You now, if you have a wallet in Canada and you have a wallet in the US, you just do a transaction of a stable coin. I mean, that's brilliant.
All right, Kevin, we got to let you go. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Here at the desk. Kevin O'Leary will be speaking on stage at Consensus 2025 later on today. That was chairman of O'Leary Ventures, Kevin O'Leary. We are going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.